From the beautiful Finger Lakes region of upstate New York, this is the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. We take questions from anyone in the dental profession and discuss what it takes to win not only in dentistry, but in life. Business, leadership, relationships, parenting, health and wellness, money management, nothing is off limits on the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. I'm Jason Tenori, your host, and have over 20 years of experience to pull from. Learn from my mistakes and let me help you collapse time so you can become the best version of yourself. Yo, welcome back. Dr. Jason here at Dental Lighthouse Podcast. Super excited about my guest today. You know I have a man crush him because I'm constantly referencing him in other episodes. But in all kidding aside, really excited to have Dr. Addison Killeen on here. Addison, how are you doing, brother?
Doing well, better than I should be. I'm done with clinical for the week, so my neck gets to recover now. So I'm happy.
That's awesome. That's awesome to hear. So we've had Addison on the show before, and those of you guys that know Addison know that we could pretty much talk about anything from data analytics of a practice to biking across Europe. But today I wanted him on the show to talk specifically about his newest book called The Shift. I was blessed to be one of the people that had a chance to I don't even know what the right term is. Addison, is it beta read? Is that what you would say? But yeah, I had a chance to read it really early on, and I was blessed to have Addison ask me to write the foreword to the book, and it's a beautiful piece of art, and it really resonates with me and with a lot of the things that I talk about here on the show. So I just wanted to bring him on the show and just ask him some really cool questions about the book and what his mindset was in writing it. So thank you so much for being on the show and giving me some of your time, sir.
Thank you for having me, man. Your show is kind of exploding, and I think it's because you talk about, honest issues that people face, and also like super interesting characters that are doing amazing work in dentistry. And people like yourself, as well as your guests that are just building awesome organizations. So.
I appreciate you saying that. So, the first thing I think we did, the 800-pound gorilla in the corner of the room is, when people think of Addison Killeen and the books that he writes, it's all about systems. It's all about processes. It's all about numbers. And then to pivot and come out with a book like this, that's more of a leadership fable. I have lots of questions, right? So, what was the mindset between with pivoting from what you traditionally write, just what motivated you to do so?
Well, I think you and I read a lot of books. And so there's those books like Traction and Get a Grip. You have the nuts and bolts, and then you have a story. And sometimes it's the stories that I think teach us better, like Patrick Lencioni's Ideal Team Player. Like I just bought a box of books for all my team, and I just said, hey guys, this is a great book. You should read it. And when you read a story like that in the fable format, you just remember it like better. And I just remember these characters, and you kind of just like remember some of the things they say in it. Sometimes it resonates really well. And, for me, I really look up to guys like Patrick Lencioni, or Gino Wickman that have the ability to write in fable format. And so I said, well, I've, through my time with the restaurants and breweries and all the other stuff I did before dental school, as well as the experiences I've had over the past, 15 years in dentistry, some of the stories, like I just wanted to be able to tell them. But sometimes, just telling a story in a dental fashion just doesn't work super well. So this book was is a way for me, a mechanism to teach really good business systems and leadership thoughtfulness, but in a story and in a story of a mentor. We all need mentors in our life, whether we meet them or whether we read their material or follow them on YouTube or listen to their podcasts or whatever. Like we have these mentors. And so this, I hope for people, the character Jack is a mentor to somebody who needs it. And really, that's kind of what led for me to kind of switch up, is to be able to tell really interesting stories without violating the confidentiality of some of the funny things that are behind the actual stories.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I find that in anything we do, it could be parenting, it could be coaching, it could be leading our team, even case presentation. I feel like the ability to tell a story just resonates so much better with people than just giving them the facts or giving them the analytics. Making them feel good about it and you know, telling the hero's journey, the whole cycle of the hero's journey. I really feel lands well, and you nailed it. Lencioni, I think, does it better than anybody. But another mentor that you and I both share from afar, Craig Groeschel, he does a really good job of it. So that's awesome. Do you did you decide one day that this book had to be written? Um, Based on your own needs or based on needs that you are finding in your relationships with coaching clients or people on your team? Like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? What made you sit down and say, I just need to get some of this stuff out of my head and onto my computer?
I think it it came down to I kind of been mulling this over for a couple years, and sometimes you get the pushback from folks that they say they want coaching, they want help, or they know they need help, but yet then you say, well, this is the path, and they're like, well, I don't want, nah, that's not the path I need. I just want this, or I want a piece of it. And it's like, well, no, you kind of need to step back and take a look at the whole picture. Like, this is the path of a mentee mentor relationship, and in any business, like, business is people, business is business. Like, it's whether you're selling an auto body shop or running a bank or a bakery, like one of our fables we probably talk about a lot. Business is people, and all business is business, and so you kind of have to have, there's a framework. And I think when we put into, dentistry fits into a business framework, but dentistry obviously is unique because we have to be both the mechanic on the car as well as running the books. And hopefully we're not the ones collecting the money at the front desk, but we have to play different pieces of the pie. So um, what broke this camel's back here for me was just trying to be able to convince people that, if you're in need of help, you're not alone. This is a super common, like extremely, extremely common thing. And to know that you're kind of in a pickle, that's good. I mean, the awareness, self awareness is obviously needed. But then, here's a framework kind of meshed from a lot of other philosophies. Obviously, we're sponges, we soak up everything we experience in life. And we're a compilation of, if we read a lot of Lencioni, a lot of John Maxwell, James Hunter, we kind of soak in what they have taught. And so this is just I take no credit for any of the ideas in the book. They're just regurgitations and a new way of thinking about this from a bunch of other really smart people who came before me. But it was just a way to, like, hopefully be able to strike a chord and say, okay, this is the path. So that when someone actually does need more in-person coaching or asynchronous online coaching or a community, some type of support, that they're like, okay, this is something I need, and this is the way forward, and this is what I should do.
Yeah, super well said. And I agree with you. Um, not taking anything away from you, certainly not giving myself any credit, but it's harder to come up with your own ideas, right? Like less and less of what I coach, I actually came up with. It's to your point, it's a melting pot of all the resources that I've been exposed to. You, a huge one of those, different books, different webinars, different in-person things. And then again, to your point, you kind of take what you think resonates from this source and this source and this source, and then you just kind of put it all together and you mold it, and then you spit out your version of it. And I think that
Mhm.
this book does a phenomenal job, just because I know you at a deeper level than most probably do, does a phenomenal job of communicating your philosophy and your mindset and your vision on what leadership really is. Um, and I think it's just amazing that you've kind of collected all of those thoughts and put them in 200 pages so anyone can really tap at any time what you're all about. So it's a really really cool gift for people that need it. which kind of leads me to my next question. Who, in your opinion, is the book most intended for?
It's probably for the dentist or business owner or leader of an organization because I think this could be applicable to people who either control an organization or control maybe a department um, that are probably on the younger end of the scale. They're maybe in the first few years of their journey up to maybe 20 years. Although it could be applicable even past that. But people who are kind of new to this journey and new to getting to feel out the shoes. And they bought the shoes, they bought the business, or they took over the department, and yet they're just like, "Oh, this doesn't feel good," or they're having to grow. Um, so generally, people probably on the younger end of the scale, and there's a lot of it's easy to write about what you know. So I feel like I know those first few years because I both was that in the last decade, but also now that I've like bought and started new clinics over the past few years, like, okay, I kind of get that whole sense again, as well as the experience of coaching and kind of being in a dental community where people ask me lots of questions. I get the blessing of kind of hearing all these kind of horror stories. And a lot of what's in the book is quite honestly just like the crazy things, which I hope never happens to anybody else. But, we know that things happen and we know that life gets difficult. And, hopefully by teaching in this book, we can help somebody avoid a pitfall or make a better decision. And yeah, that's kind of, I think, what hopefully this book will help is these young leaders that are trying to just get used to the new shoes they're trying to put on.
Yeah, well said. I know you deal with it too, but I get a lot of text messages and phone calls from, let's say, a doc in their early to mid 30s. They just purchased their first practice and they want to talk to me about systems and processes and my marketing strategy and all this stuff. And, you need to have them pump the brakes and being like, okay, what you really need is, dot, dot, dot. What you really need is everything that's in this book. And it's weird because, and I was probably this way too. It's classic, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Sometimes you can just say, based on my own lived experience, this is really what you need to be working on. And they don't even want to hear it. They don't like, no, 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 Jason, you don't get it. Like I don't need to worry about that at all. Those are the soft skills. Those are like, I'll worry about that later. Only to have them come full circle and be like, okay, I get it. And I was even that way when it came to like core values, right? When I was in my mid 30s and someone like Gino Wickman or Jim Collins, I would read something on core values. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I mean, maybe later. But yeah. So, and then
Oh
as
my
you get a little
gosh.
bit
Yeah.
older, you're just like, wow, I think about how much time I would have saved if I would have focused on that at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, like I was too busy hiring and rehiring and firing when what I should have been doing was core values and I wouldn't have had to lose 10 employees. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's totally it. Well, and it's tough leadership, and that's a big amount of the book. It focuses on leadership and kind of self leading yourself first. Um, when the main character in the book, Daniel, is struggling, and basically Jack says, "Okay, like if you want to be." If you want some help, I'm willing to help you. And Daniel's like, well, no, I couldn't. And Jack's like, no, I'm an old dude. I got nothing better to do. Like, I will help you. And so Daniel's like, okay. And Daniel's thinking, this is what I need. He's going to give me some tactics. And then Jack says, tomorrow at 5:15, we'll meet at the hiking, the hiking forest, like meet at the hiking trail. We'll ruck in the forest. I'll bring an extra rucksack. And Daniel's just like, oh crap, I don't think I signed up for this. And so, like what you said, when you're ready, the coach will appear. And so, um, in this coaching relationship, a lot of it is walking and talking, which I think is a great strategy in general for meetings. If you're ever going to have a difficult conversation with a team member, maybe do it over your lunch hour, do it after work, but walk, because walking beside them you're focusing on something, which kind of helps, but also just walking allows you to talk and talk through some difficult things. And I'd use that as a strategy. Um, and I know you like to go on walks with Kara a lot, and it's just helpful to, walk. And I don't know, maybe that's a little bit of a, Jesus walked everywhere and Jesus was always walking and talking too. Um, and so it's kind of, that's where the book and the mentor relationship starts. But then it's also from the leadership perspective, Jack teaches Daniel, you got to lead yourself first. Like you have to be better. You have to consume the right information, so don't be doing social media. Don't be listening to just songs. Like if you're going to be a leader, you got to be consuming information. And leadership, as you know, is not stagnant. Like I don't feel like I did so much research in college on like what is leadership, like what's this and that, and I still don't know my head from a hole in the ground. I still feel like I don't know anything, but I think it's the impact of if you're always studying it, then when a difficult situation comes around in the practice where you have someone that's maybe not a culture mix or something comes up where you have to make a really tough decision, but you studied leadership just a day ago, and that recency bias causes you to make a better decision and causes you to be like, this, I know I don't want to do this. Like, something happened and like, okay, now I have to have a tough conversation with a patient and let them know something that they're really not going to like, but I got to do it. It's going to cost me a bunch of money, whatever. But when you're studying leadership and you know the right thing to do, it makes it a little bit easier to make the right decision. Once you make one right decision, it makes it a little bit easier to make the next right decision. But that all comes from, I think, that constant studying and working towards like self-improvement and leadership. And even though leadership is such a fuzzy, weird term, I mean, I think that's one of the things I think hopefully people take out of reading this book is it's just another mechanism to study leadership and good improvement.
Man, so much to unpack there. And so well said, so articulate. And I agree 100%. The classic, you are the result of the five people you hang out with the most. I mean, I believe that, but I also feel it could be used in terms of what you're exposing your mind to, right? So if you're streaming, these shows on Netflix, if you're just listening to music, again, nothing wrong with that. Um, then your mind's going to be wired a certain way. But when you're reading books like The Shift, when you're reading things that are just the foundational leadership books that everyone is referencing and using, when you're listening to Dave Ramsey's podcast and Lencioni and all of these things and Craig Rochelle, and you just start to just get wired to think that way. And to your point, when a situation has happened, I love the term recency bias. You just feel like you're better prepared. Are you perfectly prepared? No, but you're better prepared to have to do whatever needs to be do whatever needs to be done. And I was just on a podcast yesterday talking about this, and I don't know why people complicate leadership. Like it is ambiguous, I get it, but I mean, really, from my perspective, it's all about character development. And these decisions that we have to make, they're not like moral dilemmas. Like we know what we need to do, we just have to do it. And that's where I think, a lot of aspiring younger leaders struggle. So in their mind, they're having a conversation with themselves. Okay, I know what needs to be done, but I don't want to do it. Right. Or I don't have the courage to do it, or I don't have the leadership muscle to do it. And as you've heard me say before, that's what character development is. It's like knowing what needs to be done and actually doing it, especially when you don't want to do it. And to the point that you
Yeah.
so eloquently made, it's like a muscle and you do it and it's uncomfortable, but you got through it. And then the next time it'll be a little bit easier. The next time it'll be a little bit easier, and so on and so forth. So yeah, great
Well,
point,
I
and
think
so good.
I think it's also tough as you're on the younger end of the spectrum. You're going to be leading people who are older than you, um,
Mm,
and sometimes when you're on the younger end of the spectrum, or you're just out of dental school, people don't give you a lot of credit, and it's really tough to know. Like, well, I want them to like me, And of course, that's kind of a conundrum because, yes, I mean, liking you as a person is one thing, respecting you as a leader is a different thing. It can, they're not always hand in hand. Like they might say, like, oh, that guy's kind of rough around the edges, but I trust him as a leader. I know he has my best interests. I know I respect him. I mean, there's kind of two different sides of that coin. I think sometimes young folks coming into a leadership position, and I'll say leadership, like the minute you get your DDS, you are a leader. Like whether that means you're a leader in the community, a leader at the office, it's that whether you're an associate or an owner, that degree gives you a sense of you're a step above, and you should always be reminded of that. That like even if you're the associate in the dental office, people look to you as a leader, so you don't get to abdicate that. Which bummer, sorry, dude, you're gonna have to step up. Like some people, they just say, "Well, I just want to be an associate. I want to come in, do the work, go home. I don't want to manage anybody." But we got, it's something I always remind them is like, hey, this is we've taken this Hippocratic oath, the Dentocratic oath, whatever. We got to take that and imbibe it. But yeah, it's tough for younger folks to kind of make that switch to just be like, no, I have to be on. I have to, I don't always have to be best friends with my dental assistants or the hygienists, but I have to make sure that we're all following the same culture, following the core values, moving in a way that makes everybody better and takes care of the patients.
Yeah, 100%. I'm blessed to have a number of associates, and some of them are leaders, in the traditional sense of the word, vocal, and some of them are not. And the ones that are not, the ones that are a little bit more introverted, a little bit shyer, I'm not asking them to come out of their shell. I'm simply saying, I just need you to lead by example, right? Like just be the person that I need you to be. And to your point, even if you're just an associate, like, but you see your assistant struggling with something, don't just brush that under the rug. Like, go have a conversation, go help her, make sure she's aware that there's um, an expectation that's not being met, because that's what people truly need. And I feel to your point about developing trust and having people respect you, in my opinion, and I'm biased, but if a leader doesn't show honesty towards someone, if a leader doesn't let someone know where they're not meeting expectations, and they just constantly give them the everything's great or you're doing amazing, like it's just not fair. And the person that ultimately suffers is that person that could have been benefiting from your leadership. So yeah, 100% agree with what you're saying. Um, I'm curious. So, obviously you wrote the book because you have so much experience and wisdom in this realm. Did you learn anything unique as the pages started to get written? Was there anything that you're like, huh? Just be curious if that was the case for you.
Um, I learned a lot about the literary process. I mean, all the manual books are kind of word vomit, written at 4:30 in the morning, and that it's easy to think because it was very sequential. I would map out kind of an idea plan of okay, the operations manual or the associate manual, whatever marketing is kind of like, well, once we hit this major topic, let's go to some subtopics, and then let's go to some more subtopics. Um, in the fable, basically, as I started writing and kind of researching, it was a lot about character development. So, like, how do you build out characters? Now, I had a lot more note pages of like, well, this is who this character is. This is the kind of person they are. This is what they would listen to. This is, what they would think and what their stressors are. Um, and then it was like every chapter kind of has three different sections, like A, B, C. And so I learned that that was kind of the best way to do that. Um, Usually every chapter has kind of a parable. I even in the book, I kind of say it, you know, the best selling book in the world is the Bible, and the Bible teaches a lot in parables. So I said, well, like parables teach well. So Jack, as the mentor, kind of teaches in parables, which is awesome. And some of those parables I've slightly changed just to protect the innocent in this story, but they literally are like very accurate. I'll tell one story. Uh, Jack runs a manufacturing corporation. It's called Rhino Industries, Rhino, and that has some meaning for the system in the book. But in the manufacturing plant, one of the welding machines goes up in flames, burns down the whole factory, loses a couple $1 million. And it was like, well, why did this happen? And it was basically because one worker learned how to, they got the machine new. They learned how to weld and clean the welding machine. One of the most flammable substances is basically the shavings or the soot of a welding machine. And so the soot is like very important to get cleaned off all the time. Just like in a welding machine, just like in a kitchen hood, like the grease of the kitchen hood needs to be cleaned off almost weekly. And so you got to do it the right way. Got to have a really good system, just like in sterilization. Like this is extremely important to have sterilization be tip top, like absolutely perfect system. Well, person A didn't teach person B very well how to do it. Person B took over the job and then quit, and then person C took over. And so, just like the game of telephone when you're a kid going around the circle, you start with an Addison Killeen and you end up with Dr. Cleaner, whatever. And it's like, well, that's not what I said. And so in the story, the soot builds up and it catches on fire, and it was a fantastic fire and it burned down the whole plant, and, not great. Well, that came from a real life experience, and you kind of learn some things in that experience. But it's the same thing in the dental office. Like you can't trust that a system is going to get transferred from person A to person B to person C, and so that's why you have to have it documented first of all. But you also have to have the culture of like we are constantly following the system, and whether that system is going to change day to day, week to week, depending on whatever software it is, or we get a new product in, we try a new matrix system, we try a new implant system, whatever, but it's always going to be written down and we're always going to do it the same way. And so like that, Jack as the mentor kind of teaches in these systems, but like the parable, each chapter, to go back to your original question, each chapter has like a parable about, well, this is why you need this part of this, the overall business systems, the BS framework, the bull, whatever framework, BS framework, business systems framework is, each part has a little parable to go around it. So in writing the book, I was like, okay, so you have part A, B, C, you have a parable in there, you learn, you have some character development. It's also very humbling experience to write the book because then I had a couple people edit it, and one of the editors was just like, well, I just used, in Word, you say like find and replace. Well, you use this word like 37 times. You should find some other words. Like, oh, okay, that isn't very, yeah, humbling, I guess. And so it just trying to find different ways to say things, different sentence structures to kind of mix up. Um, I'm a little late to the game, so I didn't use Chat GPT at all in the making of this book. I should have, but I started writing it a couple years ago. I think even before Chat GPT was a thing. I actually had the whole manuscript pretty much done about a year ago. And then, of course, you think it's done, and then it gets ripped to shreds, and you know, um, just different little changes here and there, and it finally comes out to a good point. And now it's amazing. And the cover process, like, went through probably 20 different covers before I found one that I kind of liked, and then I'm like, okay, let's kind of manipulate it a little bit, and it's cool. Um, and then, of course, the blurbs. As an author, you try to get some blurbs from folks. So Mike Michalowicz of Profit First was nice enough to write a blurb. He was a big fan of it. James Hunter, super cool guy. I sent it to James, and he's like, "Well, let's jump on a call." And so I'm like, "Oh, this is sweet! I get to talk to James Hunter." And it was about a 45-minute call, and the dude is the manifestation of servant leadership. So he was just like, "Hey, I'm not gonna I'm going to read your book. So give me a couple weeks. This was, can't remember what time of year it was, but he was just like, I'm going on a vacation. I'm going to read your book. I'll let you know in a couple weeks whether I'm going to blurb it or not. But then we kind of talked. He was kind of quizzing me on servant leadership to see like whether I totally understood what it was all about. Um, and thankfully, like I've read his book a few times, so it's like, yeah, I totally get it. When I said, I was asking him like, okay, I got to know, you write about Simeon and you write about this monastery. Like, where did you come up with this idea? Because I went to a Benedictine high school at a Benedictine monastery overlooking the floodplains outside Omaha, Nebraska. Like it was a 5-day boarding school, so I lived there during the week. And I'm like, this I can totally picture this because like literally I lived there for 4 years. And he's like, oh, that's a real story. Yeah, there's a guy named Simeon. There's an actual monastery. Like I went to a weekend retreat there, and then I've been back. Like, no, that's not a fable fiction at all. That's
Oh,
real.
wow.
And I'm
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. So getting
Yeah.
to talk to him was truly a joy. But yeah, just that whole the way of writing a book. It's a lot more work than you think when you're going through it. But I'm glad I did it. I don't know if I'll do it again, but it was pretty awesome to do.
It's funny you say that. It just reminded me of Peter Attia. I know we're both huge fans of him, but when he came out with Outlive, someone asked him, like, what's your next book? And he's like, I will never write another book as long as I live.
Well, and that's the same thing I think Peter said about like, he's like, man, recording the audiobook, he's like, I hate the sound of my own voice. And now that I've recorded and you're helping record the introduction, you know, I don't like the sound of my own voice either. And I'm like, but then again, I don't know if I like the sound of somebody else like way sexier reading it. Like, I don't want people to have a an unequal or like fuzzy version of me. So I did it
Right.
myself too, but yeah, I don't know if I'll do that again.
Right. 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 Well, man, I so appreciate the time. Whenever I get an opportunity to connect with you, it lights up my day and my week. And I can't recommend the book enough. Feel like I've read it multiple times, just kind of going through the different versions that you were sending me. And it just lands, man. It just really lands well. And it's just such a great framework for, the avatar that we talked about, that, the younger owner, leader, dentist. But as I was as I was reading it, I couldn't stop but think, my regional manager could benefit from this. My director of operations could benefit from this. There's just so many people. I mean, just parents could benefit um, from just the frameworks. So I so appreciate you writing it and allowing me to be a little part of it. Um, where can people get it? How does that all work?
Yeah, it's on Amazon.com. It's on BarnesandNoble.com. So basically, yeah, if you search the internet, you'll find it. And it comes out August 5th. So if it's after August 5th, it'll probably ship in a day or two. But yeah, you can find it there.
I didn't even know it wasn't out yet. Well, now I feel super special.
Exactly. Yeah, you got the pre-release copy.
Pre-release. Uh, Again, thank you so much for the time, Addison, and I'm excited for this wisdom to get out in the hands of people that really, really need it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Addison Killeen.
Thank you. That wraps up another episode of the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. You have a choice today. Choose to be a lighthouse. Lighthouses are powerful and steadfast. They are beacons of light for others to reference when life gets turbulent. Go out into the world today and become a lighthouse for someone. Give more than you get. True joy comes from serving others. Start today. I'm Jason Tenori, your host. Thank you for listening to the Dental Lighthouse Podcast. For more information, podcast show notes, or links to anything that we have discussed today, please check out our website, thedentallighthouse.com. We would love to hear from you. If you would like to get on the show, please email us at podcast@thedentallighthouse.com.